Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Like Coach said, we got to get back to work and practice, work hard, and like I said, overall, just flush this and just move on to the next at bat for each and every one of us in the starting lineup.
Wow, we can learn from what happened in each, and we can try to improve in the next 7-8 days. It still doesn't make me any less proud of my team.
Now, stop me if you've heard this before. South Carolina goes winless in Hoover and goes home to get ready for the NCAA tournament. At least they have the NCAA tournament to look forward to this year, unlike last year when they played their last game here in Hoover. The Gamecocks know they're in the NCAA tournament. They don't know if they're going to be a super regional. I would say chances of that have dwindled quite a bit over the last 48 hours with their performance and the performances of other teams. Gamecocks lose today. They are eliminated from play here at the SEC tournament. They fall to Texas A&M 4-1. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth here in Hoover. The Professor Tom Hayes back at our studios in downtown Columbia. Kevin McCrary, he has the happier story of the day as Clemson scores late and beats Virginia K-Mac. Tigers' first game in the ACC tournament. So Monty Lee's debut in the ACC tournament for him with his Tigers, it goes well.
Goes very well, Corn, and I'm glad to have the happy story because I think everybody would agree that I'm a happy-go-lucky guy on Sports Talk. Everybody would say that I'm always the one that brings a ray of sunshine and happiness to everybody.
I don't think there's any question of that.
No
now,
doubt,
back to
no
the
doubt.
Tigers. How did they pull it out today?
They pulled it out with some very good hitting, timely hitting, if you will. Eli White with 3 hits, a couple of doubles, and maybe an unsung hero as well when you have a guy in Triller, Matt Triller, that takes one, or I should say Mike Triller, who's hit 1 home run all year, hits a 2-run homer and a 3-run fifth for the Tigers. That was really the difference for Clemson as they held off a rally by Virginia and ended up winning this thing.
Huge win for the Tigers, Pro, and really does it cement them as a regional host? We talked last night about Clemson needing to beat Virginia or Louisville to do that. It gets into 39 wins. Way they're playing right now, I got to think they're going to be one of the 16.
Well, yeah, and they get a bump in the RPI because of winning against Virginia. Now the sky's the limit. You keep pushing on and let's dream big and say they run through the tournament. And maybe they don't get a national seed, but their name will come up when they talk about 7 and 8. Let's think about that because I think that's probably with South Carolina losing. Let's face it, that opens up in my mind one of the 8 national seeds for somebody. And it seems to me if Clemson makes a run through that tournament and wins it, they could be some talk in that committee room where Ray Tanner would be sitting about them maybe sneaking in the back door.
Yeah, it could be. RPI for the Tigers going into it was 11, but you have to look at maybe an LSU or Vanderbilt for sure. Be right back. Busy night here on Sports Talk. Coverage of USC's loss to Texas A&M 4-1, and coverage of Clemson's win over Virginia at the ACC tournament today. Tigers pulled that one out 5-4. We'll hear from Chad Holbrook at the Gamecocks. We'll hear from Monty Lee as well. K-Mac is in Durham covering the ACC tournament. I'm here in Hoover, and the Professor Tom Hayes is back at our studios in downtown Columbia. 800-956-7266, the number if you want to join us. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. We're presented by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining the NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/rise and fly. All right, besides the baseball, we'll dive into that in detail here in a moment. The other story rocking the country is Baylor and what came out of that day from a sports standpoint. The football program, wow. Art Briles, who had emerged as one of the great coaches in the country with that program, with his offense, with his up and down the field high-scoring machine, he's gone, fired. The president reassigned Ken Starr, and other shakeups within that organization, both athletically and administratively. An ugly day for Baylor. Now, you want to be careful here, I think, and not paint all of college sports and all of college football with the same brush here and say just because what they did at Baylor was done, it doesn't mean that's widespread activity around all of college sports. However, there are people who will say this should be a message and a warning to every president, every athletic director, every head coach, every assistant coach, anybody affiliated with athletics across the country. This should be a warning shot across your bow to see what happened at Baylor and make sure it doesn't happen at your place.
Well, unfortunately, Baylor has been, I guess, a target for a lot of years, especially when you have a teammate killing another teammate in basketball, I guess, over a decade ago. The interesting thing, Corn, is we've always said, and it's almost become cliche now, that the cover-up is worse than the crime. If you have a player get out of line, arrested or whatever, it's going to hit public. And why cover stuff up? I've never understood that, because now you're involving institutional or lack of institutional control, and you're going to get fired. Your program is going to just bear the brunt of it. And I guess Art Briles got caught up, like a lot of people, even if they've got their senses, that winning is the cure-all, and it's not. And over maybe less than a handful of players, you cover that up, and then you've destroyed your program.
Yeah, same thing happened to them in basketball. As you mentioned, that murder, they tried to cover that up way back then. And K-Mac, we're talking about, I don't know the student population of Baylor, but I mean, it's a private, a faith-based private university stuck way down there in Waco, Texas. And they've reached great success in really a multitude of sports. They've been good in football, basketball, and baseball at times, but in particular football and basketball here of late. And people always kind of wonder when a school like that, a program like that takes off, and they wonder, wink, wink, what's going on. And obviously some of the people they had in that athletic program, on both the football and basketball side, character-wise didn't measure up, and they wanted to make sure nobody found out about it.
Yeah, and I don't really have a major problem if a coach takes a guy that flamed out somewhere else and he looks him in the eye and says, I believe in this kid and I want to give him a second chance, because at the end of the day, some of these people do deserve a second chance. Maybe they're not going to be able to fulfill that obligation and they're going to mess up, and then you have to send them on their way and say, okay, we tried. And then you are responsible for that as a coach, where these guys made their mistake is when these guys messed up, rather than just kick them to the curb, they tried to cover it up. And they tried to not only cover it up, they tried to go after and harass the people that were accusing them of these crimes. That's a big, big deal. And I know we kind of saw a hint of this at Tennessee, and that maybe is still unfolding. But this is very disturbing how it went down at Baylor, no doubt about it. Seeing that report was very disturbing.
Yeah, man. What they did was beyond the pale for sure. That became. I mean, I don't understand how they could run. On the one hand, continue to run a highly successful football program and stay focused on that when all of this had to be boiling in the background and all around. How they were able to stay focused and win all those football games and excite people that way. It has to be a great disappointment to the Baylor fans, number one. And it has to be a great disappointment to college football fans, number two, who like Art Briles and thinks he's a bright, creative, offensive genius as a football coach, to realize that he would allow the sort of things to go on that did go on in his football program and do what he could to make sure that the culprits were covered up and protected to benefit his football program at the expense of the victims. So that's very, very sad that was the case. All right, let's see. Let's talk about what's happening in baseball and give you some details on what's happened here. South Carolina, I'm not going to hash over the dismal history now of South Carolina here in Hoover, except to say it's 8 straight losses now, 4 years in a row that they've come to Hoover and left without a victory. They did play better today than they played yesterday. Not saying much considering they made 5 errors yesterday. Today, only 1 error, and it didn't hurt them. It was an overthrow to first base on a pickoff attempt. They still lose 4-1 to Texas A&M. Give you the quick review in case you haven't followed along today on what the Gamecocks went through. Top of the second, the Aggies get to Braden Webb, and this was the one inning where they got to him. 3 straight runs scoring on hits, an RBI single to left by Nick Banks. He then scored on a double into the gap in left center by Michael Barish, and then Jonathan Maroney got him home with a single to right field. So he's down 3-0. Gamecocks come back, bottom of the third, 1 out. Gene Cone walked. Marcus Mooney followed with a perfect hit-and-run single to right. Right fielder Banks overran the ball, and Cone scored on that error to make it 3-1. The Gamecocks threatened to add more after the Aggie shortstop, Austin Homan, misplayed a ball hit right at him, giving the Gamecocks second and third with 2 outs. But Hunter Melton made a nice play on a ground ball, the first baseman. The ground ball from Jonah Bride beat into the bag, and that ended the threat. It stayed that way, 3-1. Bottom of the 6th, Gamecocks threatened with 1 out. Back-to-back singles by Bride and Madison Stokes. T.J. Hopkins, they put him in to pinch hit for John Jones. He flied out to left for the second out, and then Chris Cullen grounded to short to end the inning. Gamecocks had another scoring chance. Bottom of the 7th, Cone singled with 1 out, went to second on a wild pitch, stranded when Mooney grounded to short, and Alex Destino struck out looking. Bottom 8, Mitchell Kilkenny replaced Brigham Hill on the mound for A&M. Hill was outstanding. Kilkenny as well. He had the Gamecocks down in order. Top of the 9th, the Aggies scored a 2-out run off Josh Reagan to make it 4-1. And then the Aggies in the 9th came in with their excellent closer, Mark Ecker. He set the Gamecocks down in order, striking out 2. The final out, this sort of sums it up for the Gamecocks. L.T. Tolbert hit a long fly ball to right. Looked like it could be a home run, but Banks went up and brought the ball back into the park, making the catch, denying the home run, and ending the game. Gamecocks go 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position today. They only had, 5 hits on the day total? And 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position and 3 for 14 with runners on base. So, this team has been prone to going into the freezer with the offense, especially when they had runners on base and needed a clutch hit, and that was the case today. Webb pitched well, 6 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 hits. He struck out 8, 102 pitches thrown by him. But that second inning, he said, he let things get away from him, and he took the responsibility for those 3 runs that A&M scored, and that's all that A&M needed. Gamecocks 42-15. They will play next week, but you have to really question whether or not they'll be a national top 8 seed. We'll hear from the Gamecocks coming up, as well as from Monty Lee. We'll be right back. All right, so we gave you the story on the Gamecocks. Let's catch you up on the rest of the SEC day, the ACC day, and the other tournaments we're following. Did you stay up last night and watch Florida and LSU? What a ball game. 5 hours and 40 some odd minutes, the longest SEC tournament game in terms of time in history. And what a marvelous game it was just in terms of excitement. LSU won it, so they're on one of their runs. Florida had to turn around and play today after South Carolina and Texas A&M, and Florida beat Alabama, so Alabama's been eliminated 5-4. Florida wins that one. Right now, Ole Miss is hammering Vanderbilt, top of the third. It's a 5-0 Ole Miss lead. They just got a home run to go up 5-0, so Ole Miss is firmly in control. And then tonight, in what should be a terrific game, of course, you got to wonder how much more pitching LSU has to run out there after last night. They'll play Mississippi State at 9 o'clock tonight. They're expecting a huge crowd here at the Hoover Met for that. All right, K-Mac, the latest over there at Durham Bulls Park.
Yeah, as we mentioned, and as most of you know by now, Clemson did win the first game today in this pool play format, a 5-4 over Virginia. The second game in the books now, Florida State, a 6-1 winner over Georgia Tech. And coming up here in about 30 minutes, they'll get the nightcap going, NC State and Miami. And that'll be it for today. And if you're not familiar with the ACC, a little different, the pool play format where you're guaranteed at this point 3 games. So Georgia Tech, Florida State, they're all still alive. Even if you lose twice, you're still alive, and that's your guaranteed 3 games once you make it to this portion. So Clemson will take on Louisville tomorrow. Louisville off 1-0 in this tournament with a win over Wake Forest, and they are number 2 seed. So Clemson really needs to get that win. And then if Clemson wins tomorrow, they're in very good, very, very good shape to go to the championship game here.
All right, so just to be correct on this, because I'm always confused, Clemson won, so they have not been eliminated from championship consideration yet.
Well, of course, Clemson's not, but like Georgia Tech now, they haven't been.
That was tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't implying that they had been eliminated or could.
No. What I was saying is that I'm annually confused about their pool play.
Yeah.
Even when you win and you're 1-0, sometimes it feels like you've been eliminated because of something.
Yeah, I mean,
because somebody else is already 2-0 in your pool. You might be 1-0. Somebody else is already 2-0, and you're not going to get a chance to go.
They've tried to fix that too, where they set the scheduling up where that can't happen as much, because that has happened where teams playing their first game and they've essentially been eliminated. They've tweaked it a little bit to make sure that doesn't happen, and just in terms of the scheduling. And so if Clemson wins, and that'll mean Louisville and Virginia, 2 teams in their pool, the only 2 teams in their pool that are a higher seed than them, they'll have the head-to-head matchup winner over them, and then a game against Wake Forest on Saturday. And if they'd be in great shape to advance to the championship game with a win over Wake Forest. Now, getting ahead of ourselves here, because Louisville, as we know, is really good, and they swept Clemson in the regular season.
All right, Clemson's pitching situation after today, because they used Krall a good bit today.
It looks like it's going to be Schmidt unless something changes. They'll start Clayton Schmidt.
Mm-hmm. All right. Can Krall come back and pitch tomorrow if needed?
He could. Out of the bullpen, He threw 20 pitches today, so yes.
Okay, good. We'll be right back. We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Thursday night. Phil Kornblut, Hoover, Alabama. The Professor Tom Hayes, Columbia, South Carolina. And Kevin McCrary, better known by his fans as K-Mac, or on Twitter, K-Mac must die. He's in Durham, North Carolina, covering Clemson ACC tournament. Good day for the Tigers, not a good day for the Gamecocks. We'll hear from Monty Lee coming up right now. Let's go to the Gamecock side of things. I gave you the recap of the game. Let's hear from Chad Holbrook, Gene Cone, and Braden Webb. Let you hear their story about the Gamecocks' elimination. Lost today 4-1 to Texas A&M. Opening statement from Chad Holbrook.
Well, I think the story of the game was, the way Hill and Kilkenny and Eckert threw the ball. They were terrific. They kind of overpowered our hitters for the most part. We had a couple good swings there, but when we had a good swing, either nobody was on base or we couldn't get a hit to fall. They were terrific from a pitching standpoint, and then we had the one bad inning in the second inning, and that was going to be enough. We started that inning off with a walk and a wild pitch, and gave them a little bit of momentum. And against a lineup like that, free bases come back to get you, and it certainly did in that inning. That being said, Braden and Josh threw extremely well to hold a lineup like that at bay. If you'd have said we'd keep them to 3 or 4 runs before the game, I'd have signed up for that, and we were going to try to figure out a way to score 4 or 5. But their pitching was too good. Braden battled, Josh battled. We had some guys in there give us some competitive at bats, but we didn't have enough. And we got to get back to work on that and find 9 guys and put 9 guys in the lineup that'll compete and give us some competitive at bats against some really good pitching. Because there was a few instances today I thought our hitters were uncompetitive, and some of it had to do certainly with the quality of pitching they were facing. We'll go back home, get back to work, and see if we can correct the issues that were exposed of us down here in these 2 games.
Our student athletes, Gene Cone and Braden Webb, questions for the players.
That had nothing to do with our hitters. I mean, they're taking some good swings, and Hill did a good job. I'm faulting myself for that second inning because I came out after the first inning and was locating my pitches, and then made a few mistakes here and there, and they capitalized on it. So hats off to A&M for that. This was a huge game for us, and I just came out expecting to go out and battle because A&M's the best hitting team in the country, and I didn't do a very good job in that inning, and I'm at a loss for words right now. I'm very upset with my performance in that inning.
I wouldn't blame it on the park or the location. We're just playing good SEC teams. We're not going to win every game. That's how it works. But, Braden gave us a chance to win out there today, and the offense just wasn't able to string enough hits together to get them a win, or us a win. I think number one, we have to flush this. And like Coach said, we got to get back to work and practice, work hard. And overall, just flush this and just move on to the next at bat for each and every one of us in the starting lineup.
We'll resume now with questions for Chad Holbrook.
Keep that from mix up the lineup, or what do you?
Well, there's going to be some different options on the table. I can't sit here and against right-handed pitchers. We have to move the ball, and I got to put guys in there that are going to fight and scratch and claw and find a way to get on base or get bunts down or do something productive in there besides striking out. And the strikeouts are. It's just, got to shake some things up a little bit. We'll go back to work. We'll strap it on this week, and they'll be tired of seeing me by about Thursday, and hopefully they'll be excited to play Friday because we're gonna have to get some guys some work. We'll probably scrimmage. We've got some guys to throw, and I'll try to put the most competitive team on the field next week that I can.
Can you just talk about the fact that you do have more baseball to play, unlike last year when you left here after the one game, you kind of thought that might be it. At least you got more baseball.
Well, we've played 57 games and we won 42 of them. And while these 2 sting, I'm proud of the fact that our players won the East. I read something the other day. It said something about, South Carolina backed into the Eastern Division Championship. Let me tell you something. When you're in the same division with Vanderbilt and Florida, you don't back into anything if you finished ahead of them. I can assure you that. So in regards to that, I'm proud of our team's accomplishments. It's certainly coming off a difficult season last year, but I'm not really necessarily happy with the way these two games unfolded, and the fact that come Sunday, everybody's 0-0, everybody's 0-0, and we're 5-1 game winning streaks away from playing in the College World Series, just like everybody else. And so we need a great work of practice, and we'll probably go 2-a-days about 3 or 4 days in a row, and I'll make them as sick of me as I possibly can, and hopefully they'll be excited about seeing another opponent.
You've had to suffer through this 8-game tournament losing streak as assistant coach and head coach, besides playing other good SEC teams. Any common denominator you can put your finger on?
I don't know. I really don't. I'm at a loss for words when it comes to that. We've had great regular seasons. And we get here for some reason they're not, and haven't played well. And it's kind of, I don't know how to explain it. I think the biggest way and the best way to explain it is we've lost to some really good teams. And we've been in some elimination games facing guys like Hill and Ecker. And that's not a good combination to have. We won't be in a tournament alone. You're playing number 1 teams in the country on the second day here. And I think we played Vanderbilt one year, in the second game, and maybe had their ace out there, and played Florida one year in an elimination game. It's a tough league. It is a tough league. And I'm going to judge and gauge my guys on a 55-game regular season, not on a 2-game tournament here in Hoover. And while we can learn from what happened in these two, and we can try to improve in the next 7-8 days, it still doesn't make me any less proud of my team.
Get 5 national seeds.
Well, here's what I don't think. I don't think the SEC should be penalized for being the best conference in college baseball. I don't think, that's just an opinion. I don't think national seeds should be spread out, and getting, X conference should get this many, X conference should get this many, just to be fair. No, you give the 8 national seeds to the 8 best teams in college baseball. And but that being said, I'm sure for the end of the week our RPI will be in the top 10, and when you're in the top 10, you're in the conversation. But a lot of times when my history or the history of the committee in the NCAA tournament, sometimes your performance in a conference tournament doesn't help you. It doesn't hurt you. It can help you. But then you got to give credit to teams like LSU and Vanderbilt and other teams across the country that may play their way into the conversation. So that's just part of baseball, and that's just part of postseason play. We came in here in the conversation, and I'm sure we'll be a conversation. That doesn't guarantee us anything, but if your RPI is in the top 10 and you're SEC East champs, I think you should be in the conversations.
Okay, Chad Holbrook, USC baseball coach, along with a couple of the players following their loss today to Texas A&M that sent them back to Columbia. So it's going to be a boot camp like I would imagine. I'll never forget the year Ray Tanner was coaching them. I think it was a year they went to the World Series and won the national championship. They went 0-2. He immediately called for 2-a-day practices and a boot camp mentality back in Columbia and turned things around in time for the regional, won that, and then won the super regional, and then eventually won the national championship. So, but this team, we talked about this earlier in the week coming into the tournament, they tend to go into these spells where they can't hit timely, and they can't hit with runners on base, and we've seen that here. And they're going to see, no matter who's in their regional, even if it's the 4th seed who they'll probably play, 4th seed's going to have at least one really good starting pitcher that could give them problems. Clemson coming up. Okay, a bit of sports talk here on South Carolina Radio Network covering baseball, the upcoming qualifying at Charlotte tonight. We'll give you some practice speeds and a whole bunch more here on Sports Talk tonight, presented by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/rise and fly. And now to Sports Talk's favorite turkey, K-Mac, with the head coach of the Tigers.
Gobble, gobble. Yeah, the Tigers come out on top against Virginia 5-4 today. A nice win for the Tigers. Gives them win number 39 on the season. Monty Lee's first ACC tournament, and he goes out and beats the defending College World Series champs.
Well, it's just a great feeling. You know, we played really well today outside of a couple of errors, but physical errors are going to happen. Now, I thought scoring early was a big emphasis for us today, and we jumped out to a 4-1 lead, and then we just held on. You know, Eubanks did a nice job following up Charlie Barnes, you know, once Barnes got to right at 100 pitches. And then Pat Krall, you know, wasn't as sharp as he's been at for a majority of the year, but, you know, he does what winners do. He found a way to win the ball game, and the ninth inning was big for us. We got the leadoff guy on base. Chris Williams got on base. And, you know, then we drew a big walk to put us in a sacrifice bunt situation. And Pender did what he's taught to do, stay in the middle of the field with the infield in. And I was able to hit a ball pretty good to give us the one-run lead. So just overall, we played well against the defending national champion, a great ball club, and only helped our resume as far as potentially hosting a regional.
And a great pitcher on the mound. And you guys did scratch first, Eli White with that double. How important was that to kind of break the seal and get some momentum?
I thought, you know, I really felt good simply because I thought we took good swings first time through the order. A lot of times you can get a feel for our lineup based on what we do first time through the order. If we're taking good swings, if we're on time to the good fastball. You know, he was running the fastball up there in the low 90s, and we took some good swings. We were on time. We squared some balls up, and I think that only helps you second, third, fourth time through the order. And we were able to get into the bullpen. You know, anytime you can get a potential first rounder out of the game, it's a good thing for you. So I felt really good after watching our guys and how our approaches were. You know, we drew some 3-2 walks. We won the full count really, really well today. Had some 2-strike hits. You know, in the big inning, we had a 3-2 walk. We had a 1-2 count homer, another walk, and then a 2-out, 3-2 count double. So, you know, we did a good job of driving the pitch count up and putting some good swings on the ball in full count situations, which is big for you.
Triller's not a home run hitter, hasn't been this season, and he takes that ball to get you on top and more momentum. Did you just have a good feeling about him, and is that kind of how it's going for you guys right now?
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of times it's just a feel situation for us just because we haven't had a designated hitter that solidified himself as the guy. But Triller here lately has been swinging the bat really, really good in practice. We gave him a shot at Notre Dame, and I thought he took some really good swings at Notre Dame. He hits the ball really well the other way, and I felt like if there was a part of this ballpark that we could hit the ball out of, Triller would be the guy that clipped. So, you know, he just got fortunate. It was a 1-2 count. They made a mistake over the plate, and he stayed on the ball and caught it out front, hit it pretty good. And he's a fifth-year senior, gives you quality at bats, and he's strong, he's physical, can hit the ball parts of the ballpark, and he deserves the opportunities that he's getting.
It seems like you guys are just seeping with confidence right now based on how you finished the season and going out there and taking on, again, a team that's been at Omaha, just won in Omaha last year. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. You know, we've been confident all year. It's just something that we preach in our program as part of our mentality, as part of our culture. You know, we want our guys to show up every single day and compete with confidence, compete every single pitch with confidence, regardless of the score. Don't scoreboard watch. And that's a big thing for us, is to put together quality at bats and compete with confidence. If somebody makes a mistake, let it go and move on to the next pitch. Don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on a bad at bat. No bad body language, no complaining. Just go out there and compete with confidence every single day, because the game will beat you up if you let it. And I think our team has bought into that and has shown up every single day and not let the day before affect them. You know, that's been a big thing for us. And, you know, looking forward to seeing how we do tomorrow against what I think is, you know, arguably the best team in the nation.
Okay, that's Monty Lee talking to K-Mac right after the Tigers' victory today over Virginia. Great win for Clemson. But K-Mac, they take on that juggernaut, Louisville, #1 in the RPI going into the tournament this week.
And as you heard Monty Lee say there, the best team that he's seen this season, and they played some pretty good ones, Florida State, Miami. So no strangers, a very good teams, just played the defending national champs. And I haven't seen Louisville in person, but I'm told they are very good. I think they have 700 on their roster.
And they pitch it well too, and they play good defense. I mean, they're the complete deal. They did a great job of elevating that program. Even before it got to the ACC, they were playing excellent baseball and going to Omaha, and they've just continued to climb nationally. Okay, we'll come back. Recruiting report coming up here on Sports Talk in a moment. Ole Miss continues to lead Vanderbilt comfortably going to the fifth, 5-0. The Rebels over the Commodores. Now to recruiting. An update on Brad Johnson, the defensive end from Pendleton. Michigan State and Tennessee saw them come on board with offers this week. Michigan may not be far behind. Recruiter Jay Harbaugh was by the school this week. Coach Paul Sutherland said Harbaugh, the younger, he cannot offer, but he gave him every indication that an offer would be coming very soon. Spent about an hour and a half with the coach. They like Johnson's ability. They want to check character and grades and all that. Clemson recruiter Brent Venables was by the school last Friday. Tigers have not yet offered, and they do not seem to be really pushing the envelope with Johnson, who's just 5 miles down the road. But USC is. The Gamecocks have offered. They've expressed through the coach how much they want him in the program. They were there on Tuesday, Hutzler and Peterson, to watch the entire practice. Sutherland said that the Gamecocks are constant with Johnson. They'll be in it to the end, he said. And he says he does not believe the kid will make an early decision. He's going to take official visits. But the Gamecocks, he said, have a great relationship with him. Out of state, Sutherland said Virginia Tech and Notre Dame are showing the strongest interest. Added that Tennessee is going to check him out. In fact, was supposed to be there today to check him out. Sutherland, Johnson, and Johnson's mother met last night to begin mapping out plans for summer visits. They want to go see Big Ten schools in Texas A&M, and Notre Dame is lumped in there with the Big Ten schools. So right now, Notre Dame, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Virginia Tech will get visits this summer. Then by the end of the summer, They're going to narrow it down to a smaller number. Johnson has been to USC, Georgia Tech, and Wake, so he wants to get to some schools that he hasn't been to yet. Receiver M.J. Harrell of Orlando last night released his top 10 schools of USC, Virginia Tech, Maryland, Duke, Louisville, NC State, Indiana, Syracuse, Pittsburgh, and Wake Forest. He plans to visit USC this weekend. Northwestern quarterback Gage Maloney was offered Wednesday by Miami of Ohio. And Wren quarterback Jay Urich is set to announce his decision tomorrow, 3:30 at his school. Urich said he just got offered by Duke, and that's given him something else to think about along with the offer from USC. He said, quote, "I'm pretty sure where I'm going, but want to make sure," end quote. And that'll come down tomorrow at around 3:30. There you go with recruiting for now. Don't forget to check it out on the website, sportstalksc.com. And if you are on Twitter, use the hashtag STRecruiting to all our recruiting information and any other notes that we have retweeted out there from the recruiting world. All right, 5-0 here, Ole Miss over Vanderbilt. Coming up after this one, it'll be LSU and Mississippi State. That should be a heck of a ball game. We'll come back with more from here in Hoover and Columbia and Durham. Thursday edition of Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Welcome back in Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Thursday evening in Hoover, Alabama. Beautiful evening. We've had great weather here this week for the SEC tournament. It's headed towards nighttime in Columbia, as I like to say when I'm in another time zone, back east in Columbia, South Carolina, where the professor is, and also back east in Durham, North Carolina, where KMAC is located. We've got time for your phone calls if you want to join in on the baseball talk or what's happened at Baylor. What does it mean to college sports nationwide? The alarm, the alert sent out by what went on, what has gone on, what will go on at Baylor moving forward, and especially the impact on Baylor football and the impact on the coaching career of Art Briles. Catching you up on the baseball scores, 5-0 here. Ole Miss leading Vanderbilt. CAA tournament, Mount Pleasant, College of Charleston with a 7-1 lead on William & Mary. Wilmington beat James Madison 5-4. Coming up, Northeastern will play the, lower seed loser of game 4 and 5. So, be honest with you, not having the bracket in front of me. Okay, that's game 4. That's game 5, the lower seed. So they'll play College of Charleston, if I'm reading this correctly. Looks like College of Charleston, should they hold on to win, we'll have to turn around and play Northeastern later on this evening. That's how I interpret that. The Big South tournament in Lexington, Longwood and High Point in a shootout, 16-11 Longwood, bottom of the 7th. Later, Radford and Gardner-Webb. Coastal Carolina, undefeated in the tournament, has the night off. Southern Conference tournament in Greenville. Mercer leading Furman 4-1, bottom of the 7th. Greensboro beat Wofford 9-6. That's it for Wofford. Same for the Citadel. East Tennessee beat the Bulldogs 4-2. Still to come, Western Carolina and Samford. All right, you're up to date at the ACC tournament where KMAC is located. The game still to come there tonight. They'll be getting underway in just a little bit. NC State against Miami. Miami's having a great year. NC State, let's see. I think they lost to Florida State. Am I correct on that, Pro? Didn't they lose to Florida State yesterday?
They
Okay,
had
so
Florida State, well, boy, I think until the 5th or 6th inning, won and then exploded and won that ball game, I think, 7-3.
So you're looking, Florida State won today, so they're going to play Miami. That should be a great game. Florida State and Miami for the right to move on to the championship, assuming Miami beats NC State tonight. And Clemson plays Louisville tomorrow. Louisville off today. Clemson beat Virginia today. Saw where a pitcher from Maryland yesterday in the Big Ten tournament struck out 16. That's a good day's work on the mound when you do that. Checking for some other scores among the top-ranked teams nationally, but nothing is really jumping up at me right now. So, our phone number, 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. We'll check some of your comments on mail and on Twitter, too, when we come back. Another fourth spot for Ole Miss in the fifth. They're running away with it now 9-0 over Vanderbilt. 9-6-0 for Ole Miss, 0-3-1 for Vandy. We're brought to you by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/riseandfly. All right, let's talk about a couple of other things that's of importance. This note was put out by Tony Morrell from the Big Spur, and he wrote yesterday, senior linebacker Sky Moore, USC, continues to have issues with his neck, and he said while no decision's been made as of yet, he wrote, it's possible that Moore will need a surgical procedure to correct the issue. No specifics on the injury, nor how long he might be out if he is indeed forced to have surgery. He does have a redshirt year available. Not sure that he'd want to do that considering he considered going pro after last season. But, guys, that would be a blow to South Carolina if he can't play, even though he missed the spring K-Mac. Valuable player, 2 years in a row, leading tackler, linebacker or safety. I know there was some talk about safety, but I feel like they're going to leave him at linebacker. They need Sky Moore. They need a healthy Sky Moore in there.
Yeah, he's the best player on paper anyway. If you ask somebody to name one Gamecock football player around the SEC, people would say Sky Moore. He's really about the only if you had a face of the program, he would be it right now, for better or for worse. So that's certainly, and when you're talking about the neck and surgery, that doesn't usually entail something where you come back in a couple of weeks. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. This other note that I saw in the state, former Gamecock basketball player Roe Howell was in an accident, and he broke his C5 vertebra, leaving him paralyzed. His wife has started a GoFundMe account to help with his therapy and hoping to raise $100,000. They've got just over $4,000 thus far. His wife told the state he'll be in continued rehab for a while, and they hope that he's able to continue with therapy to get to where he needs to be. Began his first day of rehab in Charlotte Wednesday, and while paralysis is the initial diagnosis, his wife said, they're hopeful he'll drastically improve. No details here as to exactly how he was injured, just that he was, and he's suffering from this now.
Well, you know,
yeah, I heard he had actually had a seizure and collapsed, and as he fell down, that's when he suffered a fall and suffered that injury, according to some things that I've been told. And that's just scary stuff. He was a McDonald's All-American out of LR. Very good player for South Carolina under Eddie Fogler and then under Dave Odom. Broke his wrist late in the year that South Carolina last year. It turns out that South Carolina made the NCAA tournament, but just a good guy too. So you really hope, and his wife's a great person. Hopefully that'll turn out well for them.
Well, you know, you never know about a guy, and you're talking about the spine, especially somebody of his height. And what that might mean. But, yeah, I heard the same thing came back that he had a seizure and he fell and he injured that bone in his spine. That's you going back to Sky Moore, though, it's interesting, Corn. If you're not going to have Sky Moore, you might as well not have him now. But if the key point is if he would have started the season and then he disappears, now that really hurts you. Now you have time to prepare. And they were almost mentally preparing not to have him anyway, because as you said, he was starting to turn pro. But you worry about a guy that plays that position with all kind of activity coming from different directions, and you're talking about healing after somebody's gone into your neck area. That's not like a red shirt to me, or get the degree, and so long we'll try it at the next level. It'll be interesting to see how he plays this.
All right. And 800-956-7266 is our phone number. 9-0 here. Ole Miss leading Vanderbilt as we go to the top of the sixth inning. So Ole Miss cruising and staying in the winner's bracket. One more winner's bracket game to come here. It should be a doozy tonight. LSU against Mississippi. ACC tournament. You've got Miami against NC State. Should be a big crowd of Wolfpack fans there. How's the attendance been? How's the weather been in Durham, K-Mac?
The weather has been outstanding, no question about it. And it's been pretty good. They announced 3,000 for the Clemson game. Now, I don't know how many of those people were actually in the stadium or not, but this is a great venue. I don't know if you've ever been up to the Durham Athletic Park. Durham Bulls play here. It is a really nice venue. The ACC does a first-class job putting this event on, and it's going to be here for a few more years. Now, I pose this today, and I know you'd be on board with this, definitely, Corn. Now that the flag is down in South Carolina, it's looking for sports business again in the Palmetto State, we got to get this tournament down to Myrtle Beach. I just think that would be the perfect spot for it. Now, you go down there with this kind of format where you're guaranteed 3 games. That's the kind of event where you would get your family in the car and say, we're going to go down and spend a week in Myrtle Beach, go to some baseball games, go to the beach, eat some seafood. And I think they would just do a great job either at Coastal's facility or at the Pelicans facility. And, they were going to go there to start, and they pulled out because of the flap. I think it's time to go back and put Myrtle Beach back on the docket again for the ACC tournament. I think it would be a great, great experience.
Well, I'd love to see it come to our state. We've got, I think, several venues that could be looked at. I think I saw the conversation that you were having on Twitter with people going back and forth over that, and somebody made an excellent point where the date of the baseball tournament is right now over Memorial Day weekend conflicts with a big biker weekend down in Myrtle Beach that attracts thousands and thousands of people. And
does it? I don't know. I think people get out of there during the bike week.
Move the bike.
Yeah, and that's my thing, or cancel. I know Nikki Haley has actually mentioned canceling it before, and I get people like their motorcycles, and you want to have a bike week. Well, have it a different week. I'm very biased here. I think baseball is better than bikes, so I'm going to vote baseball. I think you'd have a better, a certainly more wholesome crowd. It's more family friendly. Let's be as correct as I can. I mean, the bike weeks, I think there's 2 of them in Myrtle Beach. I don't know which one is which that week, but baseball needs to be back in South Carolina. The ACC tournament and Myrtle Beach, to me, would just be the perfect venue. Now, you could do it down in Charleston if you wanted to go down there, and that would be really good too. But Myrtle Beach is really their Memorial Day weekend, I think, would be the place to do it.
Well, you have Harley Week, which is earlier in May. They've already had Harley Week, and this is Black Biker Weekend, and it traditionally falls during the weekend of Memorial Day weekend, and it attracts thousands of bikers, just like the Harley Week does. And again, as I said, it takes up a lot of the space. It brings in, I guess, a lot of money, and I think that a lot of folks leave both biker weeks. A lot of businesses, a lot of residents get out of there because of the crowds and the noise that come with the bikes.
Yeah,
and I'm not so sure that the two could coincide because of the space limitations with the hotels and the necessary and needed accommodations to handle the baseball crowd.
Well, they were going to do it.
Yeah,
they were going to do
anyway.
it. Yeah, they had it. They had this thing locked up. They had announced it, if you remember. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
I don't know if it back then if it conflicted with the biker week though, because that biker week was a different time a few years ago, and they moved it and they kind of set on
move it again
this weekend.
Move it again.
Move it again.
I mean, is there some law that has to be that weekend? I mean,
No.
I'm just, to me, it makes a lot of sense. I think it would be good for the state. I'm not saying cancel the biker weeks or either one of them, but if they started a week later, would it be that big of a deal? I don't know. I mean, the mayor of Myrtle Beach and if the people of Myrtle Beach could make that decision, but just as a resident of South Carolina, that's where I would put it. Greenville would be great too, but I think that's too close to Clemson, and people might be upset about perceived home field advantage. And if you're not going to do it at Myrtle Beach, do it in Charleston. That would be a great venue.
All right, let me jump in, K-Mac. We got to hit a break. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, and Ole Miss continuing to lead here 9-0, trying to get that 10-run rule after 7 innings and go home from this game kind of early, which is what I think a lot of people are hoping for, especially those that were here till 3:30 in the morning local time for that 14-inning thriller last night between Florida and LSU. And you give Florida a ton of credit for coming back today and beating Alabama. That was a physically tough game last night, an emotional toll as well. You go 14 innings and you end up losing. You got to turn around and play the next day. That tells you something about that program and how strong they are. So good win for them today. Qualifying now underway at Charlotte for the 600. They're in the first round, and your current leader is Joey Logano, 191.327. Ryan Blaney would be second right now, 191.232, and Kurt Busch third at 191.184. This is round 1 of qualifying in Charlotte. Going back to the topic of the ACC tournament in particular. Now, this tournament's going to be, possibly on the move. Nobody has said for sure yet if it's going to be back here in Hoover or headed most likely to Memphis. Seems to be the strongest talk. If it leaves Hoover, it's headed to Memphis. Now, K-Mac, you were making fun of my comments about the RVs and the importance of taking care of the RVs. I was talking with another sports talk show host who covers the Memphis area, and one of the comments he made and the topics he brought up was having to make arrangements to take care of all the RVs that come to this event. Mississippi State people, LSU people, I'm telling you, they come by the hundreds. And so they're saying in Memphis, if that's the case, they could use the parking area around Tiger Stadium, the Memphis University Stadium, the Liberty Bowl, and then shuttle people to the baseball park. That's something they've talked about in Memphis to accommodate the RVs. So that is a point of concern for whichever location gets this event.
Have FedEx buy some land and just clear an area for the RVs. FedEx owns Memphis anyway.
Well, yeah, they could do that. I don't know how soon. I would imagine that it'll be a major topic of conversation next week in Destin at the SEC meetings, and I don't know if they're going to come out of it with a decision or not. As far as I'm concerned, I'd love it to stay here in Hoover. Oh, my goodness. Did I just see what I think I just saw? Was that what I just saw?
What did you just see?
Were they trying to intentionally walk the guy and he overthrew the catcher and a run scored?
Yeah,
I believe Ole Miss is batting. They had runners on second and third. Vandy was going to walk a guy, and the pitcher threw it over the head of the catcher, and the runner scored from third on an intentional walk attempt.
Well, that's why I think the major leagues talking about that rule of just letting a guy walk to first base. No, make him throw over there because some pitchers have problems.
Yeah, I have never seen that before. I don't believe at any level of baseball where they just threw it over the guy's head. Wow, unbelievable. All right, it's now 10-0. They've got the 10 runs. They just have to keep Vandy off the board, and they'll get out of here a little bit early. Back in just a moment. And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here in Hoover, KMAC in Durham, and the professor back at our studios in downtown Columbia. Going to hook up, we think, with USC golf coach Bill McDonald here in just a couple of moments. Trying to. He's out in Oregon with his Gamecock golf team set to begin the NCAA championships for the men tomorrow. Clemson is also out there. We've talked with Larry Penley. Recently, we get Coach McDonald back on the program. Another recruiting note, as Clemson has gotten a commitment from a pitcher from Somerville, right-hander Bo Gobbin, who had been committed to the Citadel, decommitted from the Citadel, and is going now to Clemson. So Tigers pick up a pitcher off the state championship team. The other night, he went, according to this tweet, he went in one of their games, playoff games recently, he went 10 innings, struck out 7, no earned runs. So good outing there, and he's going to take it to Clemson moving forward. Updating qualifying in Charlotte. Again, Logano is still the leader. They're in round 1, 191.327, and Ryan Blaney remains a second on the chart at this particular time, qualifying for the 600. Let's head out to Oregon, where the men get on the golf course at the Eugene Country Club. After the ladies went through there for several days, quite an exciting women's tournament it was. Now it's time for the men to take over. USC golf coach Bill McDonald joining us from way out there in the great Northwest. How are you, sir?
Hey, Phil, I'm doing great. We just finished up our practice round and trying to sneak in a little practice. So we go early tomorrow at 7:20 or so. So looking forward to getting started.
Absolutely. What do you think of the course? How did you guys practice? How did you handle the various nuances of the place?
It's in incredible shape. It's just it's a wonderful golf course. It's really, it's very tree lined, extremely greens. I think they rolled them yesterday after the women's event. I'm hearing they've firmed up a little bit, but it's just a classic golf course that's going to require a lot of patience around these greens, and we're just going to have to drive the ball well too. There's a little bit of rough, not as much as we had 2 years ago when we were out here for regionals, but it's still enough rough to bother you if you're wayward with your shots.
Now, I think it played to about 6,300 and something yards for the women. What about for the men? How much is going to be lengthened?
I will be, I'm sure, a little bit over 7,000 yards. I mean, it's one of those places that can make it about as long as they want and move speeds around. But it's also the kind of golf course where you don't have to really trick with it too much. I mean, we'll play a little differently in the seventh hole for us will be a converted par 5 to a par 4, and it's playing up right at 500 yards. That was a par 5 for the girls, and then the 17th hole they played as a par 5. We'll play as a par 4, and another hole that's close to 500 yards. So when you factor those in, it's going to be a pretty good test of the par 70. That's for sure.
Talking with Bill McDonald, USC golf coach. So you're going out early in round 1. If I remember correctly, I think the USC women went out early as well and took advantage of the conditions at that time. Are you happy you're getting the early start in round 1? Do you see that as a benefit?
Yeah, I tell you, if you be in the wave that we're in, which is the early late wave for the first 2 rounds, this is the best scenario. We're the first off in the morning, and then we'll be the first off on Saturday afternoon, right around noon. So it's you don't ever know how the conditions will really eventually play out, but they're calling for a little bit more wind tomorrow than what we had today in the practice round, which if we can get out and play most of our round in the morning before the wind kicks up, it could be definitely to our advantage.
Now, have you had a chance to talk with your counterparts from the women's side at USC, considering their success of making it to the match play? If so, is that useful to you? Can they tell you some things that would be of help?
Yeah, we talked quite a bit. It was it was just really exciting to see how they played more than anything. We've always been obviously huge fans. Kalen's and Puggy's done an incredible job with that program. We were just excited for them, and they had a heck of a match coming down the last hole, basically. So we're just really proud of how they played this year. And yeah, we were picking their brains all week. I mean, it's really different how they set the course up for them. I mean, it's and for good reason. I mean, it's a tough golf course, and so. I think last year at Concession they missed the mark a little bit and were a little bit too tough on the women. This year I think they got it right. It was really, really cool to see.
So your practice round today, tell us who played well and anything about any of your players that we need to know going into play tomorrow.
Well, I'd say Keenan and Scott Stevens looked a little bit starstruck at first, and then their first national championship, and they're just a little bit inexperienced, but they've got plenty of talent, and they seemed to settle in as the day went on and had a very productive practice round. But those three seniors, I mean, they've been through this before plenty of times. They look great. But it's a practice round. They didn't hand out any awards today. So, but we look really good. Guys are good and loose. We've had a great week out here so far. We've been to Bandon Dunes for a couple of rounds and just came out a little early to get used to the time change. It's been a lot of fun so far.
You expect Matt Naismith to really shine in his last outing as a collegiate?
I think if he can find that fine line, his game is certainly there. That's for sure. He looks great today in all phases. I think if he can just find that fine line of not trying too hard, but still having some intensity, that's, I know he wants it really bad for his last go round. I know Will Stark and Sean Kelly do as well. So
sure,
it's just kind of where we'll talk about that a little bit tonight and just try to get them settled in. But Matt looks great. He's looked really good for the last 2 or 3 months, and nothing was different today. That's for sure.
What are his plans after this tournament as far as his professional career? What's he thinking about doing?
Well, Matt and Will Stark and Sean Kelly, all three of them have Canadian Tour status. They're going to leave whenever we're done here. They're going to Canada to play. They, in between a couple of our spring events, between the Valspar and the Duty this past spring, they went down to Florida and got their Canadian Tour cards, and so they'll have status out there this summer, and that's where they'll head. Hopefully, sometime after the middle of next week.
Yeah, after you've gotten every single last chip shot and putt out of them, right?
Yeah, I got to squeeze all the juice out of that lemon, man.
I don't blame you. So with that status in Canada, can they use that to filter their way to the PGA Tour, or they still have to go through Q School?
No, well, they can get that's how Mark Silvers a couple years ago got his web.com card. Was he finished top 10 in Canada, and that got him exempt to the finals of the Q School in the States for the web.com, and that's how he got it there. So, yeah, the PGA Tour now has the Canadian Tour and the Latin American Tour under its umbrella, and they try to use it sort of as a feeder farm system for the web.com. And then eventually, obviously, on the PGA Tour if you can have some good success.
Have you run across those ornery tigers out there?
Yeah, I haven't seen them too much. We were sort of on opposite sides. I saw a lot of orange over on one side of the course today. I figured that was them. It could have been, I guess, Florida or maybe Oklahoma State. But it's we all got our game faces on this week, so everybody's super serious.
No friends. I get it. Well, listen, man. Good luck to you. Hope it goes well. And if things are good, we'll give you a call tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds great, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Bill McDonald, USC golf coach. Best of luck to the Gamecocks and the Tigers out there. We'll be right back. Thanks again to Bill McDonald for being with us here on Sports Talk. Looking forward to following the men's golf championships out in Oregon. I like it when it's on the West Coast because we get to, especially when they play early, we get a chance to follow them and have a result by the time we come on the show. And then if things go well, they don't like to talk after a bad round. If they have a good round, though, we can get them on the show and talk with them about things. And we want to remind you to score big with Founders Federal Credit Union. Founders has convenient office locations at USC, a new location coming soon to Clemson. And, of course, there are ATMs at Clemson, Converse, Limestone, PC, USC Lancaster, Winthrop, York Tech. Be sure to visit foundersfcu.com. You'll get a full listing to find an ATM or office near you. If you're not a member, visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Founders Federal Credit Union is federally insured by NCUA. Well, Vandy is trying to chip away here. They've scored 4 in the 6th. This is the third 4-run inning that we've had in this ball game, which is crawling along. It's now 10-4. Ole Miss 2 outs. Vandy does have a runner on third base, and they're trying to get back into this thing. They've gotten into the Ole Miss bullpen too, so there's still a little ways to go here, and the Commodores are not giving up yet in this game on the winners' side of things. The ACC game that is ongoing in Durham, it's scoreless thus far between Florida State and NC State, so we're keeping a close watch on that. Over in Lexington at the Big South, it's gone final now as Longwood beat High Point 18-13. Radford and Gardner-Webb coming up. College of Charleston has beaten William and Mary 7-2. And Wilmington, in 10 innings, beat James Madison 5-4. So it is, and of course, as I was trying to figure out the bracket with a little bit of information in front of me previously, I had it wrong. Northeastern plays James Madison tonight. Charleston does not have to turn around and play again tonight. Leave it to me to get it wrong. Southern Conference, Greensboro beat Wofford 9-6. East Tennessee over the Citadel 4-2. Mercer beat Furman 6-1. Coming up, Western Carolina plays Samford. There you go. You're up to date on baseball. They've gotten out of it here. Ole Miss did. They got out of the inning, so they still have their comfy lead over Vanderbilt. K-Mac back with us from Durham. So as far as the Tigers moving into tomorrow's game against Louisville, another 11 o'clock game. And we mentioned Pat Krall was used today in relief, but he didn't throw a bunch of pitches, but he threw enough to where they're not going to start him. They're going to go with Schmidt tomorrow. Is that the plan?
Yeah, it'll probably be Schmidt. They hadn't fully determined that yet, but that's who I would, if I had to bet my last dollar, that's who I would bet on, would be Clay Schmidt. And Krall did throw 20 today, so he would be available at the bullpen if it was a safe situation. That eliminates him from being a starter at all this week at the ACC tournament. He's going to be a bullpen guy. They were going to see how it played out. So he'll be a bullpen guy. And, again, I would imagine that Schmidt will get the ball. He's coming off a great outing last week. He's going really well. I think he'll get the ball tomorrow against Louisville.
And one thing we talked about, too, regarding Clemson going into the tournament, their penchant for errors. They made 3 today, K-Mag. Without having the play-by-play in front of me, did any of the 3 errors lead to any runs, cause them any problems? Obviously, they were able to overcome and still win the ball game.
Yeah, they just some of them were tough plays. The runs. I'm trying to remember. I don't have the box score right in front of me now. If they gave up an unearned run, I don't think they did. They worked around those errors. And yeah, if you would have told me before this game, if somebody would have told me nothing else other than that Clemson was going to have 3 errors tonight, I would have said they're going to lose. They're going to lose to Virginia. A very good team, a sound team. But they've been able to work around that. Clemson, if you looked at their stats, you got a higher ERA and not a great fielding percentage, a lot of errors, but they find a way to win. This is a team that somehow finds a way to win. Now, they have the best player maybe in college baseball in Seth Geer, who reached base, I think, for the 53rd straight time today, which is incredible in its own right. But they get it done, and they're peaking at the right time. They're playing really, really well right now and with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, going up to Notre Dame and sweeping them really boosted them. All the Virginia runs were earned, so they did work around those particular errors, didn't come back to haunt them from that standpoint. How did Virginia pitch Beer today? He went 0 for 3. He drew a walk. He struck out once. How did they pitch him today?
Yeah, very carefully. That's how they pitched him. He didn't get a lot. Now, he has a pretty good strike zone because he's disciplined, but he has a big strike zone. So they were careful with him. They didn't end up walking him, and that's how he reached base. And the word is out on him. Everybody knows what he's capable of. So it's going to be tough for him to get.
All right, let me jump in, K-Mac. We got to hit the break. We'll come right back to you in a moment. Just to bother K-Mac, I'm going to read all 24 qualifying speeds.
Uh-oh.
The 600.
Well,
600 is a long race. It should have a long qualifying line here. No, seriously, Joey Logano leading 191. This is round 2. Joey Logano at 191.768. He continues to lead. Greg Biffle now second at 191.625, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. third, 191.591. Pro NBA tonight. It's is it going to be the end of the line for the defending champions?
I have a feeling it won't, but you never know. OKC is a type of team which I like because they don't read the NBA script, meaning that the script says the Warriors win, but I'm not so certain. Westbrook is such a dynamic energy guy. He may just drag this team to win. And Billy Donovan has proven, the time he spent with the Knicks before, I guess, going into coaching at the college level, he knows a little bit about pro coaching. The interesting thing, Corn, if and when OKC wins, I think I'm correct in this. I read this somewhere the other day. They would be the first team to get to the conference finals by knocking off consecutive teams that have won 65 or more games in a season. They knocked off San Antonio, and now they get the big ogre in the Warriors, and they're about to knock them off.
Wow. I tell you, OKC's playing extremely well, not just their big two, but they're getting the kind of support that you need to win a championship. And it wouldn't shock me. The Warriors are not playing at the level that they played at when they were at their height during the regular season. They say Curry's not hurt, so I take him at the word. He's just not playing all that well. He had turnovers the other night. His shooting's been poor, so I'll take him at the word that he's not hurt. He's just playing poorly. And I go as he goes.
I don't take him at the word.
They showed a tape.
They're going to win tonight.
Yeah, they showed a tape of him dunking before the game the other night. So it's not his injury because they showed him dunking before the game, which he does not do in the game.
He's getting defended very well. Yeah, I mean, he's not getting a lot of clean runs through the lane. They show the highlights, and he's getting bumped. And any great shooter, as Corn can attest, a great shooter there at Atlanta High School on the bench. You know, you don't like getting bumped a lot as you're running through the lane.
Yeah, so I never liked that.
They're doing a good job of getting him off his game. But Golden State back at the Oracle, they're going to win tonight. Now, game 6, all bets are off.
Well, you know, the problem with Golden State is they like to lull you into playing a helter-skelter game. And that's playing right in OKC's hands. They like helter-skelter.
All right, let me mention this real quick. Clint Brewster, football reporter on Baylor, writes that Larry Fedora, Tom Herman, Dan Mullen, and Mac Brown as a dark horse for the Baylor job. Nobody to Art Briles will be considered. That's what he's reporting here at the outset. This should be a wild one to watch. All right, K-Mac, enjoy the night. Tell Morgan we said, hey, thank you, Pro. Thank you, Carcinova. That's your new nickname. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.